Educational Ideas in 19th Century Europe. Introduction. In this study session, you will examine three giants in educational history. Study Session 9. Educational Ideas in 19th Century Europe. Introduction. In this study session, you will examine three giants in educational history who appeared and worked during the 19th century in Europe, namely Pestalozzi, Harbert, and Froebel. Their theories of instruction and their methodologies changed the schools of Europe in several ways and became the foundation for much that we call modern and progressive education today. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to itemize Pestalozzi's educational ideas and their relevance to modern times, examine Friedrich Herbert's method of teaching, and highlight the goals of Friedrich Froebel's educational ideas. Educational Ideas of Jean Heinrich Pestalozzi, 1746 to 1827. Jean Heinrich Pestalozzi was a Swiss educational reformer whose views have profoundly affected the philosophy of modern education practice. Born on January 12, 1742, in Zurich, Switzerland, Pestalozzi was one of the first educational reformers to stress the need for popular education. He lost his father, who was a surgeon, at the age of 5. Pestalozzi was only able to receive elementary education while he was staying with his grandfather, a pastor placed in charge of a village school near Zurich. Pestalozzi turned out to be a prolific writer. Though he wrote on different fields, social, political, and philosophical, his writings on education won him his fame. In fact, two of his famous books, Leonard and Gertrude, and How Gertrude Teaches Her Children, were devoted to methods of teaching children. According to Pestalozzi, the function of education was that of providing a variety of activities so as to discover the inherent talents of individuals for maximum development. His curriculum therefore emphasized such participatory activities, including drawing, writing, singing, physical exercises, model making, and field trips, as opposed to rote learning and passive observation, which dominated the classroom in his days. According to Pestalozzi, the child's environment and his ability of perceiving these environments is an important prerequisite of intellectual education. In the study of language, Pestalozzi ranked the mother tongue very highly. He regarded moral education as far superior to any other form of education. Physical education was also very important in Pestalozzi's system of total education. According to him, it is only when the child develops his mental, moral, and physical capacities simultaneously that he could reach the height of his powers. He was opposed to the excessive use of the cane, though he himself was a good disciplinarian. For Pestalozzi, the home is the foundation of the child's education. The quality of the home environment therefore goes a long way to decide the eventual personality development of the child. Pestalozzi also emphasized that instructions should proceed from the familiar to the new. To him, the learner can safely move on to his next developmental stage only if he has fully mastered the experiences and tasks of the preceding stage. Abstract concepts must therefore be represented in concrete form in the first instance, and possibly with instances. He strongly held the view that abstract ideas and concepts be linked to things. He held the view that the interest of the child should be put into consideration by the teacher. He regarded specialized training of teachers as indispensable to good teaching. He was a believer of practical and vocational education. According to him, a complete education combines the practical with moral and intellectual activities, that is, the hand, the heart, and the head. Most of the educational views of Pestalozzi, though revolutionary in his days, were emphasized with vigor in the modern times. In the modern educational practices, tremendous efforts are being made to emphasize not only rote learning and mere accumulation of facts. Efforts are being concentrated on making the learner an active participant in the discovery of knowledge. Pestalozzi's view that instructions for learners should proceed from the familiar to the new is an important legacy to modern educationists. Modern practices in education now emphasize that the new experiences of the learner should be based on the learner's previous knowledge or the entering point. Thus, modern curriculum designers emphasize sequence in curriculum organization, whereby the learning materials are arranged in a sequential order. This arrangement is to ensure that the learner moves from the known to the unknown, the simple to the complex, the concrete to the abstract concepts, etc. No doubt, Pestalozzi's idea of formal teacher training program is very much welcomed in the modern educational practice. Today, efforts are still concentrated on teacher education programs worldwide so as to properly equip teachers with pedagogical techniques for classroom teaching. Finally, Pestalozzi's practical and vocational education is given much consideration in the modern educational practice. In a scientific and technological world, emphasis is placed on the education of the 3 H's of the learner, that is, the head, the heart, and the hand. The world, no doubt, stands deeply indebted to Pestalozzi for these educational thoughts. Educational Ideas of Friedrich Herbert, 1776 to 1841. Johann Friedrich Herbert, a German philosopher and educationist, was born at Oldenburg in 1776. He studied the educational ideas and methods of teaching of Pestalozzi while he was a private tutor. He later rejected the ideas of Pestalozzi and developed his own theory. Though he studied philosophy and became a professor of philosophy in the University of Königsberg. His work in education earned him his greatest fame. He founded a teacher training college where he practicalized his teaching method. According to Herbert, learning potentialities depends on the learner's environment. This he based on his theory of the child's mind being tabula rasa at birth. If the mind of the child at birth is a clean slate, the implication is that all knowledge acquired by the child is due to the environment. It therefore means that inequalities existing between individuals are the resultant effect of the environment in which individuals grow up. He therefore advocated the proper structuring of the child's environment for learning. According to Herbert, the planners of the school curriculum should put into consideration the total development of the learner, that is, his physical, intellectual, moral, aesthetic, and affective aspects. The curriculum construction is therefore very crucial in Herbert's educational scheme. It must be carefully constructed by the teacher taking into consideration the interrelationship of subjects. The curriculum must also follow a logical sequence from the simple to the complex. Herbert's method of teaching was based on 5 steps which are still useful today. These are preparation, presentation, association, systematization, and application. The preparation deals with the planning of what, how, and who to teach. The main duty of the teacher here is to look for the general background knowledge upon which to build. The presentation comes in after ascertaining the pupil's background knowledge. The task of the teacher here is to present the learning task in a clear and logical sequence, making reference to pupils' previous knowledge in explaining difficult concepts. The third stage, which he referred to as association, is another step further, whereby pupils make a comparative analysis of new ideas with previous knowledge. The function of the teacher here is to guide and direct the activities of the pupils in their comparative analysis. The systematization stage is for the review or the recapitulation of what has been learned so far. Pupils now engage in writing down useful information from the knowledge acquired to aid their memory. The application stage is the final step, whereby pupils apply whatever materials they have learned in solving similar problems. Tip: Herbert, who assigned a dominant role for the teacher, no doubt helped in restoring the image of the teacher. Educational Ideas of Frederick Froebel, 1782 to 1852. Frederick Froebel was born in Oberwischbach, a village in Thuringen Forest, on April 21, 1782. He lost his mother when he was 4 years. Thus, he had no enjoyment of family. He later attended the University of Jena. He was greatly influenced by Pestalozzi's courage, perseverance, and ideas, and he decided to take to such an educational adventure. He founded his first school at Kelhu in 1816, where he practicalized his educational theories, which he later published in his book, The Education of Man, in 1826. The aim of education, according to Froebel, was the development of the child's personality through various play activities. Of the 4 stages of education propounded by Froebel, the infant and childhood stages were to him the most important. Froebel's method of teaching won him his fame in the field of education. His method was more of learning than a teaching methodology. The child, according to Froebel, learns by doing, hence his emphasis on the child's activities. Play, according to Froebel, comes naturally to the child, and it is the most fruitful way for him to learn. Play to him was the highest level of child development. It is the spontaneous expression of thoughts and feelings, an expression which the child's inner life requires. Froebel, therefore, developed the play way as the best method for the early childhood education. In his kindergarten education, the child was to be involved in various exercises that would promote his development. Gifts and occupation were to familiarize the child with inanimate things. Gardening and the care of pets were to produce sympathy with plants and animals, whilst game and songs were to make the child acquainted with the inner life of animals and of humanity. Froebel also made some recommendations on the education of the adolescents, especially in the areas of appropriate curriculum and teaching methodology. The curriculum, according to Froebel, must be integrated in order to produce an integrated personality. The method of teaching should always be that of self-discovery. The teacher, according to Froebel, is just like the gardener in the analogy of the child and the plant. The teacher provides the resources for learning and allows the child to explore. He should not act the role of instructor, but rather he should be familiar with the psychology of child development and match this development with the appropriate learning resources. Study session summary. In this study session, you learned the educational ideas of 3 notable educators. Pestalozzi, a Swiss educational reformer, contributed immensely to the modern educational practice. He strongly advocated the use of the mother tongue for educating the child. He also recommended moral as well as physical education. He emphasized the combination of the head, the heart, and the hand in the teaching of the child. Most of the educational views of Pestalozzi were emphasized with vigor in the modern times. Friedrich Herbart was a German philosopher. He propounded the theory of tabula rasa, claiming that the mind of the child at birth is a clean slate. Thus, environment plays a great role in the learning capability of the child. Herbart's 5 steps of teaching are preparation, presentation, association, systemization, and application. The fundamental principles of Froebel's thinking on education are freedom, self-activity, self-creativity, and unity. As the child grows, all sides of his nature will develop in perfect harmony. He will come to know himself, others, nature, God, and the inner law that holds all these in unity. The curriculum, the means for this development, is determined by the child's needs at a particular moment. End of study session 9. Thank you for listening.